Skinos episode show number 27, and today I'll be talking about canonicalisation. Boom! So today I'm talking about canonicalisation. Say that 10 times. And I've got two cameras going, so if I look differently, I do apologise. But the most important part of this entire presentation is what is up on this board and the words that are coming out of my mouth to explain them. Not exactly where I'm looking, but if that annoys you, I do apologise. I can't help it. Okay, so a lot of websites today, they get trapped with the canonicalisation issue. And while this may not necessarily seem like the biggest SEO issue to sort of tackle, it does limit your ability to maximize your potential. And that potential is maximum search engine visibility. Because what happens is, and I'll get into it, each one of these examples, these three different examples that I use, if it's set up incorrectly, you will limit or split or divide the authority on a given page. And you've got to remember, every single page on your website serves as a landing page. It serves as a potential page to bring customers to your website, to your business, and ultimately buy your goods, all right? Or fill out an inquiry form if you sell a service. Whatever the case may be, ultimately, you want to have this situation sort of handled. Now, these aren't the only three examples, but these are three common examples. And if you've got any questions about your specific example, or if you've got an issue that you think that could be a canonicalisation problem, then leave a comment and or even private message us, and hopefully we can get back to you. Visit omegadigital.com.au. All right, so the first particular example that I wanted to discuss is example.com and then example.com with the trailing /. Okay, so what happens here, if you can go into your browser and type in your website name, let's say omegadigital.com.au / and omegadigital.com.au without the /, and one doesn't sort of redirect to the other, that is a canonicalisation problem. Now, the 301 redirect will safeguard your obviously your primary preference. Now, I like sites that have the ending / as opposed to ones that don't, but it's not a major issue which one you choose. The point is that if you have the example without the / and you got the ones with the / and you've got links, you know, from all these authority sites, and then 3 are going here and then 3 are going there, not only are you, without the 301 redirect in place, not only are you dividing your authority among 2 different pages rather than one, centralize it. And where would you be centralizing it? The home page, right? And that is, so you're basically dividing your authority potentially among 2 different pages. Then you get 2 different pages indexed, and that causes duplicate content issues. Now, a lot of SEOs will sort of think that the duplicate content issue is the apocalypse of SEO, and that's often the time how it's actually explained. It's actually not as bad as what people will generally say, but depending on the size of the problem, it can just bloat Google's index with rubbish URLs, and you're not maximizing your better pages from being indexed in Google's archive. So ultimately, choose one or the other. Test both examples. And make sure that one redirects to the other. There's a good site called Redirect Detective. And if you put one of the examples in without anything following after the / and then put the one without the /, have a look if there's any. It shows you in a nice formatted diagram whether one URL is going to the other. So have a look and see whether whether there is a redirect chain. So if you type in .com and then you click enter, it may actually say no redirects found. And that may not necessarily be a problem. But if you put your website.com with the / and that as well says no redirects found, that becomes a problem. So you should, on one or the other, find a 301 redirect chain on that redirect detective. I might have to put the link up in the description, or if I forget to do that and you've got a question about it, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. So that's one example. All right, so make sure that that's obviously going to be your homepage, and more often than not, that is the page that will send the most amount of traffic. So you don't want to have it canonicalized and split the authority. Second example, we have, I have to mention another one with the www. Let me get to that after. So the www.example.com and then the www.example.com /index.html. Now, this was a particular problem when we faced these really obscure CMS systems back in 2008 and 9 and 10. We would find these terrible systems that wouldn't, and it wasn't the Apache server, sometimes it was the Microsoft server that wasn't handling the index. Now, without getting too technical, the index page, or sometimes it's also referred as default, is the page that loads generally your homepage. That index generally loads the index. Now, your homepage. The most common is index and default, and this can obviously be changed with coding, manipulation, whatever, but anyway, forget about that. So ultimately, I always recommend, in this particular example, not having this as your primary version, because generally when people want to link to you, they'll link to you like that, right? They won't link to you with the index. So if this 301 redirects to there, then you're losing some of the authority. If they don't 301 redirect, so if you go to your website and type in your website name / index.html, or try index.php, or try index.asp. There's a lot of different file extensions and variations, but try to keep it simple. If you can go to either URL and they both don't, one of them doesn't redirect to the other, that's a problem. So you'd be very similar to this example, you'd be splitting the authority among the two pages. Now, that's one problem. So making sure that this 301 redirects back to that is the recommendation. Now, if this in the end 301 redirects to that, then you've solved the canonicalization problem. You have, because obviously you're not going to have two versions of the same page loading. However, this is not the recommended preference in this particular example, because most people will not be redirecting with the index. And that's another thing you can also remember about this, but Google generally understands this a little bit more, and think about how people are going to link to you. And sometimes people will link to you with the / and sometimes they won't. But in this particular example, if your homepage redirects to index.html, you can almost take it to the bank that 70 or 80+% of your links that you're going to get are going to get here, and then later on you're going to 301 redirect. So the problem with that is it solves canonicalization, but every time you do a 301 redirect unnecessarily, you're causing more latency on the server, which brings down the server, right? And you're going to lose a little bit of domain authority, a little bit of link equity, or a little bit of link juice going back to the website, because it's got to go through a 301 redirect system. So I reckon for branding, for links, for just remembering your domain, keep it as simple as you can when possible. This particular example, example.com, www.example.com /SEO, www.example.com /SEO/. Now that /, would actually generally indicate that it's a direct. Now, most of the time it would indicate that with the trailing forward slash, it's generally seen as a directory. Without the forward slash, it's generally seen as a file. Now, obviously, Google's obviously become smarter, and people that don't have the forward slash present, and this will then redirect back to that version. So with forward slash, will then redirect back to no forward slash. Again, you solve the canonicalization problem. So make sure that when your URLs, when your directories or your category pages or your service pages, they usually don't have any extension. So there's no like .html, there's none of these, right? Because you notice in this example, without the forward slash, when you have an extension in URL, which generally is supposed to mean a file, there's no forward slash that comes after, generally. Now, I've seen the examples, but we want to keep these things simple, right? So the file, so obviously it's interpreted differently on the server. So what I always recommend because generally your service pages isn't going to be a file when it's the dynamic website, you want to have your main service pages, in my opinion, with the trailing forward slash, because it more coincides with what you're trying to represent. Without the forward slash, it won't be a major problem to use the website. I wouldn't obviously spend thousands of dollars of fixing it, just as long as one of these versions 301 redirects back to the other, so you solve the canonicalization problem. But I always recommend having the forward slash. Again, generally because I think this represents a directory and more represents the sort of, the most cases you're going to get into this particular example, it's going to make more sense to be seen as a directory as opposed to a file. Now, please test them all out and make sure that at the very least one of these redirects to the other. If you find out that both of them load, again, you will be splitting your domain authority with links. You're going to create two different pages that has the same content. So you don't know, Google doesn't sort of know, what do I do with this? And you're going to create duplicate content and you're going to split your authority. So that's obviously other problems that it creates. So with SEO, a lot of the time, the biggest keyword here is the consistency. All right. So the theme is keeping the website consistent and making sure that unnecessarily two or more pages do not load the same content when possible. Now, this is not the sort of canonicals that I'm speaking about, but at times if you have a shopping cart and you have, /shop, and then you might have /shoes, and then you want to organize the shoes by color equal blue, right? And what happens is you got a question mark, and then if without the question mark, it just loads all the shoes. With the question mark color equal blue, it just shows the blue shoes. What generally happens in sites like Magento and smart e-commerce platforms, they will take this add a canonical link tag, which you'll see down here, canonical, and then strip out the question mark color equal blue and just keep it shoes. Now that's not, I just wanted to mention this because I mentioned canonicals and I have to because of my OCD, but people might get confused. That's not really what I'm talking about today, although canonicalization sort of, the principle's the same, not having two or more pages without the same content. So this is a different example and you handle this completely different. You obviously can't 301 redirect that, and that's when the canonical tags come in. But these is a separate discussion. What I want to make sure today that you guys don't have two pages loading in each one of these three examples with the same content. Now, quickly, you also want to check, and I'll put it up here, I haven't got time to put it on the whiteboard, but when you're checking www.example.com versus no www.example.com, I see this actually quite frequently. And again, when you're making a decision, there's a lot of schools for thought, like, exactly which version is better to load up. Again, from an SEO perspective, as long as one redirects to the other, as long as your non-www goes back to the www version, or the www version goes to the non-www version, that's ultimately what's most important to solve the canonicalization problem. But again, you got to think about other issues, like once you thought about which version you want, based on people generally recognize www in the search engine as a website like the www. Now, how people are going to link to you? Are they going to link to your website with the www or without the www? I generally like seeing you can set this up in Google search. You can generally display the www in the Google search, but the URL contains no www, so you don't have to force a 301 redirect on your website. And then when the website loads, it'll be, amegadigital.com.au. Now, currently on my site, I have the www because I sort of like to actually see it. My thought process is obviously changing slightly. I think it's cleaner without it, but you just have to make sure that whatever version you do choose, think about how people are going to link to you, because you really, as potentially what you want to always try to achieve is minimizing the amount of 301 redirects when possible. You don't want to have 301 redirects if you can possibly avoid it. So think about sort of how most people are going to be linking to you. Okay, so if you've got any questions regarding canonicalization, or if anything that I said was slightly unclear, or you want to send us your particular example, feel free to leave a comment below, and private messages if obviously it's going to be obviously something private for you, your website perhaps. And we'll get back to you. We'll look at your example and we can have a discussion about it. So thanks a lot, guys.